couple days ago, I did Ariel and the Bad Guy. It is on ESPN Plus. We had a lot of fun with it. We had a topic that came up, and Ariel met me with resistance. He argued with me, which surprised me. I thought it was pretty much of a slam dunk. And we were just talking about Ronda Rousey going into the Hall of Fame, which is really cool. I mean, the Hall of Fame is a tremendous honor. It's not something you can go out there and earn on your merits. What I mean by that, it certainly is merit-based, but what I mean by that is it's not the punches and kicks and you turn to the scorecards and somebody gets their hand raised. It's not like that. It's a compilation of your career and your life's work and an acknowledgement from your peers. It's a tremendous honor in that regard. And Hall of Fames for anything, even in the Mixed Martial Arts Hall of Fame, which is still forming and getting going, but I mean, there's some real honor to that and prestige. Good for Ronda. There was some pushback from fans saying it was just too early. And you can always have those debates. You just ultimately are going to fall short because there's no actual rules or parameters into the Hall of Fame. It's just traditionally, if you look at the Baseball Hall of Fame or the Football Hall of Fame, I mean, they'll wait 2 decades after an athlete retires to put them in. So I think we often look to that and do forget there's not actually a parameter set up. And I will also tell you that Ronda's not the fastest post-career athlete to go into the Hall of Fame. Uriah Faber was much faster, and I don't know the dates. I'm just going off the top of my head, but it was like within 3 months. Uriah announced his retirement, and boom, he was in I think it was 2 to 3 months. I mean, it was instant. Ronda's been removed for a little bit. I don't know how long ago she fought Amanda, but it's a meaningful period of time. Certainly a year. Probably closer to 2 years. Maybe not. That might be a stretch. But the point is, I think she's within her lanes there to not have to deal with that conversation. Where I ended up in the debate with Ariel is not a lot of rules and processes have applied to Ronda. So in some ways, it's fitting that she would go right into the Hall of Fame. And he resisted it a little bit from the standpoint of, listen, she just left, for one. But two, she left contentiously. She does not love the sport. She doesn't go out and help and promote the sport. She's not in the gym training athletes or managing athletes or offering advice to the sport. As a matter of fact, you can hardly get her to talk about it. She's not showing up to media events and promoting the sport of the company. She's not even showing up to shows, sitting in the front row and watching the sport. She left the wrong way. This was Ariel's point, and I really agree with him on that. I like the way that he said it. I think that's very fair. Contentious. She left contentiously with the sport. I think that's really fair. I brought up the point that a lot of things have not made perfect sense in Ronda's career, and one of them is if I was just talking to a layman, if I was just talking to somebody that didn't really follow the sport or was even a new fan, and I told him that Ronda Rousey was the UFC champion and had never fought in the UFC, that would confuse them. That would make them tip their head sideways and go, wait a minute, what'd you just say? And I go, yeah, 0 and 0. Never walked out there once and was anointed the championship. Crowned it at a press conference. I go, I'm confused. What are you saying? Ronda Rousey is the first and only athlete to ever go into the Hall of Fame who's never beaten a world champion. I'm aware that she beat Miesha Tate, who later became a world champion. What I'm speaking about is the confines of she never beat a world champion, a sitting or a former world champion. That's pretty remarkable to say that somebody had a remarkable career when they were anointed champion and nowhere in their career did they ever beat a world champion. That's an interesting fact, but it is not a condemnation or a rebuke of Ronda. That is what happened. I observed it, and I'm speaking aloud on it. Ariel pushed back and told me that it made perfect sense, and that's a quote, perfect sense, that she was anointed the championship because they had absorbed Strikeforce where she was the Strikeforce champion. I would disagree. I get where it made sense. I get what the logic was behind it. I'm well aware that she was the Strikeforce champion and they absorbed Strikeforce. But for me to say that if I was in a conversation with a new fan who didn't know the history and the lineage of it, and to tell them that at 0-0 and at a press conference they put a strap around her shoulder and told her and told the world that she was the champion of the world, that would be very confusing, but imagine how confusing it could have been. What if she suffered an injury or changed her mind or something stopped her from ever competing in the UFC? She would go down as a world champion of the UFC who never competed in the UFC. I mean, you see where that can at least be eyebrow raising to somebody that didn't follow it at the time and is told after the fact, which was my one and only point. And I was surprised when Ariel disagreed with me on that. Seemed like, well, that's one you have to give me. That's a weird one. I said, Ariel, I'll see your strike force absorption, but I'll raise you a pride absorption. Those guys didn't come over champion. Justin Gaethje was the champion of his last organization. He doesn't come into the UFC as champion. Just to use a more recent example, David Branch was a 2-division champion and came to the UFC. He doesn't come over champion. It's silly. It doesn't work that way. It's confusing. Whether it's silly or not, maybe you agree with it, but it is confusing. That was my point. I want you guys to check it out, though. Had a good show, having good conversations and good debates. Ariel and the bad guy. Could be renamed Genius versus Dum Dum, but that'd be rude. I wouldn't want them to do that, but they could. They certainly could. People would get it. It's on ESPN. Go download the app, ESPN Plus. If I told you guys it was free, I really feel that that's fair. It would be inaccurate. It's $5 a month, but I don't even know what that equals. Is that 30 cents a day? Is that 15 cents a day? No one knows. That's the thing with 5 divided by 30. No one knows the answer to that question.